All right, you're back with the Italian Sports Guys.
Benvenuti, Craigie boy.
Benvenuti, Kyle. We move on to our beloved LSU Tigers. Let's start right here at home. Of course,
And
the
the national champion LSU Tigers.
national champions. That's right. And we'll start right here at home with our own Rummel Raiders High School alum, Jamar Chase, who had a spectacular year last year, the Biletnikoff Award winner, national championship game. He excelled. Certainly no surprise here, Kyle, with all the uncertainty. I'm sure it was a tough decision like this for all these young men, but you really can't fault him for the decision he made. There's so much at stake here.
The kid loved being an LSU Tiger.
Yeah.
He had the best season any receiver in school history has had, and he was the top receiver in the top returning receiver in the country again, this year. But it was a variance of issues that came into play, Craig. Of course, the most important is how much higher could his stock have risen? You have the risk of injury. He's in every mock draft. He's a top 7 or 8 pick, some top 5. I don't know how much better it was going to get. Would it be a notch against him if he didn't put up the numbers he did last year? Keep in mind, that's without Joe Burrow. That's without a couple of the offensive linemen. That's without Edwards-Helaire, and so forth. Now, if you ask me, he stays there almost as loaded on offense as they were last year. You have a bevy of receivers coming behind. The only one you had to replace up to that point was Justin Jefferson. The tight end was gone, but you have the Gatorade High School Male Athlete of the Year and Eric Gilbert, and the #1 rated tight end in the country coming in who will fill that role. And you also had a kid named Cole Taylor, a 6'7" kid out of Colorado. Both these freshmen were looking to start for LSU. And so you would have had the ability to put up a great season. I do know that there were a few things that maybe pushed it one way or the other. And some of it is the political climate. That did come into play a little bit, where just for one reason or another, I think maybe sometimes kids that age think a change of venue means change of scenery, you move away from it. The kid was so proud to be a Tiger. He was going to wear the famous number 7, for one of the team leaders. And he was always said he wasn't missing a rep in practice. I mean, he was all out working as hard as he's ever worked. You'd think it was a kid who was fighting for a starting spot, not the nation's top returning wide receiver. But at the end of the day, it comes down to a business decision as well. And there's so much money out there for him to get. And there are things that can happen. This is the truth. You can get hurt.
Yeah.
You can fall with a bad year. Your stock can go down some. The only thing that I say that it'll hurt him for sitting out is that now you won't be fresh in everyone's mind as the top receiver. The guy who wins this year's Biletnikoff for someone like him who puts up numbers can pass you on that draft board. And every NFL team's going to at least ask the question, do I think that in the end of the day that he drops because of this? Maybe, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
They're going to ask about, you sat out the whole season. How much do you love the game?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think essentially if you look at, you're right, there's always question marks, right? There's always uncertainty, any decision you make either way, right? I just think the potential for him to hurt his stock is much greater than to help his stock. I think right now he's the #1 rated receiver in the draft. Now, yeah, somebody spectacular. We've always seen that in college football. Somebody has a spectacular year and he's all the buzz. I mean, we saw it with guys like Doug Flutie, who was, projected 3rd or 4th round, and all of a sudden this magic happens and he's all of a sudden projected higher in the draft, so.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, somebody could come out of nowhere. You never know that, but I just think he's so highly regarded right now that the potential for dropping, again, as you mentioned, the quarterback's not there this year. It could be an injury. There's just a lot of other things, a lot more potential to drop, I think, than to move up.
To your point, not only an injury to him, if Miles Brennan goes down, the backups are 2 freshmen, 3 freshmen.
Yeah.
Now they're lights out freshmen, but they're freshmen.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. So anything like that can happen. It's not just an injury to him, it's an injury to one of them, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, tell me what you think of the projection for LSU. Again, he wasn't the only one they've lost. They had a number of other guys declare that they're not going to play this year for various reasons. But how do you see them, with the changes, with the guys that they've lost? How do they stack up, I guess, against other competition?
It is a loaded roster. They're very, very talented. One thing that I will tell you that I never recall seeing was a team as confident as that bunch of kids were last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they relished in the moment. They loved the tight games. They loved big games. They played their best in the big games, and they love to compete, and they love to compete together. Doesn't mean it can't happen again. Just saying, understand what you saw and how special it really was. You know, the just the confidence of Joe Burrow, the confidence of Justin Jefferson. Those, especially during this quarantine, they're replaying games from 1970 on. So you had a chance to watch LSU beat Alabama, LSU beat Clemson, LSU beat Oklahoma, LSU beat Auburn, all those big time teams. And you could watch it and see how confident they were. What stands out is how confident they were having lost 8 straight to Alabama in Tuscaloosa. They fully expected to win that game, and they did.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, you'll see a change. Now, the other 4 guys who opted out are on defense. Just the most recent is nose tackle Tyler Shelvin. LSU is switching from a 3-4 defense to a 4-3. He was going to slide over and play defensive tackle. He's up to 370 pounds again. He's always had weight issues. That's a real concern. If he's not in camp and in a program, my goodness, he might be 400 pounds by the draft. Now, you ask me, an agent's going to grab him, sign him, put the money up to send him to a training program out of state, won't have mama's cooking out in Lafayette, and he'll have a chance to play, to get in a really good shape for the draft. Why does a player like that at this point, who's had great troubles in the past, all of a sudden opt out now? I don't know. Could be a lot of circumstances, but I think that may have had something to do with it. But they're going to miss him. Now, by playing in a 4-3 defense a year after he played in the 3-4, he would be that much more versatile and that much more marketable as a drafted player. He's done different things. But his spot will be filled by Ike Apu, another 330-plus pound guy who played well in spots last year and looks to have a breakout year this year. Kerry Vincent Jr., underrated player who had a great second half of last year, also a sprinter on the LSU track team. He was the nickelback. He could play corner and safety. He opted out a while back, and again, don't know if there was an issue with something else in the classroom or not. That's kind of what I heard, but I can't confirm it, so I won't label the kid as a grade problem. The other 2 were defensive end Neil Farrell, who opted out because his grandmother is sick with COVID. He went back home to be with her. Is coming back next year. That's the word now. And then the other starting defensive end, Justin Thomas, opted out. So 5 players, 4 on defense, both your starting defensive ends. That's a lot to overcome. Okay. University of Central Florida is up to 10 players and counting. Texas A&M had a few guys drop out. Vanderbilt's, I think, over 6 now. I don't know what else is going on around the SEC, but it's happening a lot. I think what you're seeing now is a paradigm shift in college football. Our SEC West analyst, Johnny Bird Stevenson, always told me, he said, used to be you played well your senior year, you moved up your stock in the draft. Well, now sophomore year is your money year. Yeah. Leonard Fournette really broke out, Jamar Chase. And then your junior year, you try not to get hurt.
Right.
You play, but you try really. So the sophomore year is the money year now. I think this really will be something that college football has to figure out.
Yeah.
Are they going to change some rules or change some things? I don't know how you fix that, but I don't know how much football works with 2-year plays instead of 3 or 4. We'll see.
Yeah. Anything else on the Tigers? What about Kyle? We always want to be, temper enthusiasm for a team when you got some turnover at quarterback because it's such an important position, and we excelled so much at that position last year. And that certainly was no fluke. We're hearing great things about Joe Burrow in camp with Cincinnati too. But how do you feel about the young quarterback moving in and taking over?
Miles Brennan can absolutely sling it. He's got a better arm than Joe Burrow, believe it or not. He's accurate. He can make all the throws. He can throw the touch pass. He can put the ball where he wants, and he can throw it deep. He's a smart kid. He's up to 215 pounds when he couldn't keep himself over 175 a year and a half ago. All those things being said, and he can run a little better than people think. Joe Burrow's a dude, yeah, and a special cat, and everybody on that team had the full attention, a full respect for Joe Burrow. He had their attention, and he took care of everything. He was he was a graduate student with 9 hours or whatever it was. He spent his days in the football operations building going over film. Yeah. Miles Brennan learned a lot on how to handle all that by being Joe Burrow's backup. Miles Brennan is also probably up to 12 or 15 or whatever hours in a full slate as a college scholar athlete, a student athlete. Uh, I think he is just as talented. I don't know as much as I think he's got the it factor. Again, you're talking about a rare cat with the intangibles with Joe Burrow. And if you don't think so, go watch those big games, watch the runs, watch the toughness. And I'm talking toughness. Don't let the blonde bang school you on Miles Brennan. You talk to his high school, tough SOB. But again, don't compare him to Joe Burrow. He's just got to be the best Miles Brennan he can be, and he will do wonderful, great things in this offense.
Yeah.
What they have depth, but they're taking a hit. They've lost the tight end, Thaddeus Moss. They've now lost Jamar Chase from the skill position. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, another special kind of guy.
Yeah.
LSU has 3 running backs who are all higher rated coming out of high school and will be very good. All higher rated coming out of high school than Clyde was. I don't know that any of them will ever be as good as Clyde was. So the offensive line, everybody says, well, you lost Cushenberry, you lost the tackle, not Ingram, goodness gracious, his name escapes me right now, but declared for the draft, 77, Sadiq Charles. And then you lost Damian Lewis, who was a senior and got drafted. But Ed Ingram came in late in the year and was a starter 2 years previous, had to sit out a year. He is big time. And there's your left guard. The right guard is going to probably be between Cardell Thomas and Anthony Bradford. There's another player, Chasen Hines, I think, who is kind of maybe separating himself, Hines 57. The center is going to be Liam Shanahan, the transfer from Harvard, so you don't have to worry about retaining the line calls and making the right calls right there. I just hope he can stand up to Florida or an Auburn or an Alabama nose guard.
Yeah.
And then the right tackle's returning starter at this point, hear me well here, at this point, Austin Deculus is returning. There are 2 players that may still opt out they're talking about, and I'm trying to confirm it, but I heard one of my sources mentioned that Austin Deculus is one, Jacoby Stevens the other. And then your left tackle is going to probably be Dare Rosenthal, who's a tremendous talent and could be an NFL first rounder one day, just needs the reps. One thing to remember about Jamar Chase not being there, this Eric Gilbert kid out of Georgia, the Gatorade Player of the Year in high school last year for all sports, male athlete of the year, cover of SI, is a tremendous runner, leaper, athlete, 6'5", lean, smart kid. He may split out a little bit and play some of that slot receiver. There are other guys on that roster. Look for Trey Palmer to probably get first crack at filling that spot. But Racy McMath, Terrace Marshall, and maybe Palmer, maybe Coy Moore or the Butte kid out of New Iberia could be guys who could be thrust into that right away. John Trey Kirkland is the old Letcher quarterback who's been around. Some kids who are walk-ons. Evan Francione, kid we know, out of Rummel High School as well. Making some noise at practice from what I'm hearing too. Could have a shot to get some reps there. It's a chance. As these guys go down or these guys leave, it's an opportunity. But don't be shocked if Coy Moore and players like him are making immediate impact on that LSU offense. So
that Rummel LSU pipeline continues, huh?
I mean, my goodness, it sure as heck worked. Fulton, Christian Fulton goes in the second round last year, and Jamar Chase will certainly go in the first round of next year's draft. So from that standpoint, you lost some depth, you took some hits, but they have recruited as well as anybody in the country for 2 or 3 years under Orgeron. And this is where you have to fall back on it. And start using some of that equity you built up. And thank goodness he did. But it's very hard to repeat as it is. And there's another team out there who's going to be like LSU last year from a senior laden standpoint. The Jamar Chase departure will absolutely hurt them. So on the defensive side of the ball, you lost the 2 ends, Neil Farrell and Justin Thomas. So you're going to start, I think, Andre Anthony, a 4th-year senior, maybe even a 5th-year senior out of Carr High School. Always had the skill set, just had a couple of nagging injuries that set him back just when he was turning the corner. Tall, long, lean guy who can really rush the passer. And remember, again, they switched to the 4-3. And the other defensive end spot, Craig, you got 2 freshmen fighting for that starting spot. BJ Olajari and I believe Philip Webb, 2 kids out of the Georgia area who are Orgeron can't stop talking about it. Defensive tackles, you'll have a rotation. Glenn Logan's rock solid on the pedestrian. And then Ike Apu. And then you got a couple of kids who saw some time last year who slide on the defensive line is a great depth too. Linebacker, you lost Patrick Queen, you lost Jacob Phillips, you lost Caleb Von Chason. So you bring back Damone Clark. I think Michael Baskerville will be the other starter. And Jabril Cox is a two-time national champion from North Dakota, first-team All-American in the FCS level. This kid does it all. He covers the receivers, great in pass coverage, runs sideline to sideline to make tackles. He can rush the quarterback. He can play in the box. Ogeron can't stop talking about him as well. And because he's a graduate transfer, obviously eligible right away. And Mike DeChie has been calling him a second, if not a first-round draft choice before the season starts.
Gotcha.
Get to the back end of the Tigers defense. Big loss. Christian Fulton at the other corner had a great season, great couple of years. He's with the Tennessee Titans now, second-round pick. Kerry Vincent's departure, he opted out. Grant Delpit went to the Browns, was in the starting lineup already in camp till he busted his Achilles heel and is out for the season. But you bring back Todd Harris, who started last year but blew his knee out against Northwestern State. He's back in that rotation. Jacoby Stevens, who had a great season for now, keep an eye on that, as a strong safety and kind of a hybrid. He'll be all over. They'll move him all over. Bo Pelini will. And then the corners, the best in the country, Derek Stingley. And Elias Ricks, who was the number one corner this year coming out as a true freshman, will get a chance, is right now probably listed as a starter from everything I'm gathering. And then you have Cordell Flott, Jay Ward, those guys back there too. But also Maurice Hampton, a baseball football guy, who when they called on him to play last year as a freshman, hit some big hits and played very, very well. So the Tigers, again, not struggling from a talent standpoint whatsoever. The cupboard is full, but anytime you lose guys who were starters and gave significant minutes and are going to be the leaders in tough times,
yeah,
it's going to have an effect. Just if you can get you win games while guys become leaders, then you're fine. You're as good as anybody in the country in that last 3 quarters of the season. But then some of them are just going to have to step up and grow up very, very fast, and that's under a new system in Bo Pelini.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like you said, getting a good start out the gate is going to be important for a young team. It's kind of getting some experience and getting their feet under them.
I think you're going to see them rely more on Chris Curry, John Emery, Terrion Davis-Price at running back, that three-headed monster. And again, Miles Brennan can throw the football. So how much of the Joe Brady factor will they miss? Scott Linehan is a proven veteran play caller. And Ensminger, when you give Ensminger the right plays, I'm not calling him the most creative play designer in college football history, but I would put him in a booth with a quick trigger, the ability to think on his feet with anybody. And he called those plays last year. And they're LSU's playbook. That's LSU's playbook now. Yeah. Plus what Linehan brings. And watch out, they're going to be a problem for defenses again. Just need to grow up fast in a couple of spots, and they'll be fine.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, moving around to the rest of the sports world. Of course, there was always uncertainty when baseball and basketball got started. It's somewhat encouraging that even though we had some early issues with the COVID, especially in baseball, some little outbreaks here and there, they've been able to kind of quell that a little bit. Of course, basketball playing in a bubble. The nature of the sport is different, I get it, football versus baseball, but encouraging enough to see that they've been able to pull off some semblance of a season. For those two groups, it's really about getting enough of a season in to really to make it a legitimate season and get to the postseason, which is where all the ratings and the dollars come in from TV.
Yeah, look, I think more or less it came down to the fact that without the TV, I say it like this, with those TV contracts, before a fan shows up and buys one ticket or one box of popcorn, NFL, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, and the NBA have already made money. If no fans show up and no one buys a Coke and no one pays for parking,
right,
as long as that TV contract is in place, they've made $1. They won't lose any money, and it's just great for the sports.
Right.
But if you don't play the games, the networks don't have to pay you, of course.
Right.
So I think that, as much as anything, is what spearheaded this whole. We've got to get it done, and it doesn't matter what spearheaded. It got done.
Yeah.
Bad News Bears too. Let them play, and they did.
Yeah.
So I think from that standpoint, as weird as it was for everything, they're going to have a profitable year as a league, it looks like, for this year.
Yeah. Looking at baseball real quick, it looks like Tampa Bay's off to a 25-12 start. They just passed up the Yankees. Yankees have cooled off a little bit the last 10 games. Tampa's won 8 of 10. Cleveland and the White Sox tied in the Central, and Oakland leading Houston by 3 in the West. Atlanta and the Cubs leading their divisions. Dodgers off to a red hot start, 27-10. Of course, it's always a question whether they can do it in the postseason, but we will see. Moving to NBA basketball, Kyle. We had a disappointing end to the season for the Pelicans, and they had a real legitimate shot to make that postseason tournament and couldn't pull it off. Obviously, limiting the minutes for Zion, thinking long-term with him, but eventually leads to a change at head coach. And really, Griffin said it wasn't anything about his respect for, Gentry as a coach. Sometimes you just need a new voice in that locker room. And with a younger team, it sort of made sense.
Well, I don't think anybody in their right mind would not like the person that Alvin Gentry has presented himself to be.
Yeah.
You give him all the kudos in the world for holding the crap show together with the Anthony Davis stuff last season. That was a debacle. And Dell Demps, before he got fired, wasn't the one stepping up there and talking when he should have been, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It wasn't his thing. He could be a little abrasive, didn't like any, he's defensive, I'll call him. And Alvin Gentry stood in front of those microphones and took the bullets, and there was no mask to put on to hide your true feelings back then. It was that was 2019.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, Gentry was an absolute warrior to the, a real stand-up guy for the organization. But throughout his tenure, a 10-point lead with 4 minutes left meant very little because they blew so many leads. And that was part of the problem. I don't know that it was his voice got stale. I think the players liked and respected him and enjoyed being around him. They listened to him. Just didn't think he knew what to tell him. There was too many times in late games where they got outwitted, I thought. Back to your point about Zion Williamson in the minutes. It's beyond me how this league and this organization and this team can have a kid that they talk about come into camp in the best shape the mini camp they had, the reduced camp, in the best shape of his life, and has to go home for personal reasons for 14 days and comes back and at 19 years old, are you kidding me? You've got to play yourself into shape at 19 years old. That to me is there's something we're not hearing, or it's just stupid. But this kid, you can't be that age and be a professional athlete and have to play yourself into shape unless you're a nose guard in the NFL, maybe. It's beyond me. I still don't understand it. I don't like it, and makes me care less about it. So from that standpoint, I'm dumbfounded. I don't even know what to say about it. I think that goes back to part of the reason why they couldn't close games out, because he was such an integral part of their offense for 19 or 20 minutes, and they get these big leads and they have to pull them. So if you're the Pelicans, if you're Alvin Gentry and they give you X amount of minutes to play a kid of his talent, why in creation do you not have the last 4 minutes of the game if he's got a 4-minute slot with him in it? That's just plain silly.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's an answer I don't understand, or I'm missing, whatever. But that whole thing about these reduced minutes and these almost role type player things with that league has made me less interested in that league. I think that after watching their first game back blow that lead, I realized at that point that as much as I liked Alvin Gentry as a person, from what I could tell, I see him at the driving range by the house all the time. He's a super nice guy, talks to anybody, tell you hello, all those things. I'm a nice guy too. I shouldn't be coaching the Pelicans or any basketball team, any NBA team. That was the writing on the wall for me. It was time for a change. And there are other names out there we can discuss, but go ahead. Yeah,
well, I think bocce is your sport. I think you need to stick to your lane. I think that's where you really excel. So if you're looking for a coaching job, that might be your avenue there. But
I can coach some bocce.
Yeah. But and also I think this team, you can look at, they're going to look at a number of different candidates. We've heard some Ty Lue and some others on in their radar, but I still think this team needs somebody in the middle that's going to give them more toughness. I mean, yeah, Zion's a big guy, but he's a versatile guy. You want to be able to roam around and stuff. He's not going to sit in the paint. But they got beat by too many big guys got easy baskets inside and just dominated them. They need some toughness, some guys
and little guys.
And little guys, yeah. They need some toughness in the middle, some guys who can bang and really make other teams pay when they take it to the paint. And I just think they're lacking that one guy that's going to give them that toughness and maybe that attitude. We talk about Mark Ingram in football. You need somebody like that in basketball who's going to give you that mentality defensively and really excel.
Well, the starting center this year was Derek Favors. He's a good veteran guy, a locker room presence. He can give you some points. He can give you some picks. He can give you some rebounds. But if you watch him, he doesn't get off the ground a whole lot, very high. He's 6'10". He's got you a vertical. He's 6'10". And that was all the easy finger rolls, lanes. I mean, there were times when there was nobody in the paint, and if he was there, they just went right around him. Okay, so you need somebody younger, more athletic, a shot blocker. Bring in Jackson Hayes. He's 18, and your weight at 7'1".
Yeah.
He does not have your vertical. He's got an incredible vertical. He's fun to watch. He's like the sideshow Bob from The Simpsons Harold, but he's got so much to learn. He's so raw.
Yeah.
So Derek Favors got eaten alive in some sets by some offenses and couldn't stop anybody. And Jackson Hayes, who had the ability to, would play 10 minutes and he'd have 3 falls and 3 block shots, 2 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 fouls. So he's got to grow up real fast. And in the meantime, like you said, they got to find another veteran guy who can bring toughness, stability, a little bit of an attitude to the defense, be productive, at least be a good passer on offense. They have enough scorers, I think, between Ingram, Williamson, Drew Holiday, and guys off the bench who can all score, to where you can find that blend until Jackson Hayes really grows up and becomes that guy.
Yeah, congratulations to Ingram on that most improved player in the NBA, winning that award this season.
Absolutely.
I'm looking to the NBA, where we stand right now. Both interesting in the East, both Miami and Boston. Miami upset Milwaukee again tonight on the road, so they're up 2-0, winning 2 road games. Same thing with Boston. They win twice at Toronto, so both of those teams have the upper hand in the East. Look, Oklahoma City and Houston playing tonight in Game 7 in Houston. So Chris Paul and Oklahoma City Thunder trying to extend their postseason. The winner of that one, will get the Lakers. Lakers are waiting. And Denver, who just beat in Game 7, beat the Jazz, will take on the Clippers. I mentioned prior to our segment here, Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell combined for more points than any 2 players in history in this playoff series, breaking the record held by John Havlicek and Jerry West. So that's one that stood for a long time.
Just a few years.
Yeah.
2 of the all-time greats, the logo, Jerry West and John Havlicek, who's got more banners hanging than a decorated general, with those great Celtics teams with Bill Russell. But look, Boston is the thing with Boston for the last few years, when they're hitting the threes, everything else is expounded on offense for them, to where you don't know you can't stop them basically. So as long as they shoot the ball well from outside, everything else opens up. And Jason Tatum has really proven to be what he was as a rookie. He had an off year last year, but has really come back and been very, very strong. I think if Houston loses this series, and it looks like from the series standing that they're in real trouble, then I think you'll see them blow that thing up. I don't know how well James Harden and the Westbrook kid do on the same team. Both really want the ball. But it's today's league too. I mean, I was talking again to our SEC West analyst Johnny Bird. He's a Houston resident, and said, they go to the paint and they'll kick, with almost an uncontested layup, and they'll kick it out to somebody behind the stripe, because that's the matrix that D'Antoni has set them up in. This whole sabermetrics type thing, I guess, analytics with basketball is based on the leader in that in basketball is the Houston GM Moody, and it's the matrix, the numbers in basketball is failing him. It's become such a thing in baseball. It's starting to become such a thing in everything.
Right.
It's proving that it might not work. He might be the living proof that you can't get past round 2.
Yeah.
The Oakland A's, they were never going to get really any further than they could, than they did. So I think you'll see them blow that whole thing up in Houston if they lose this series. And from the series standing to me, it looks like they will. So.
Yeah. All right, folks, about wraps it up again. Thanks to the ISU Nation for joining us. We'll be back in the next couple of weeks. Once the season gets started, we'll have some predictions as well, both pro and college. And we talked about getting into the flow of the season. We have a La Familia fantasy football draft this weekend, so that'll help us get back into the mood. Bada boom, bada bing. Might have a martini or two, maybe something like that.
Well, a little cocktail, maybe some tiramisu after. Who knows? I don't know. Craig, I like food. Okay, maybe I'll eat the meatballs and tiramisu, and some anisetta, and maybe a little tuaca and some limoncello to wash it all down. We'll see.
That's right. So COVID season or not, we'll be there to cover the action. We are
The Italian sports guy.
Bada boom.
Bada bing.